Hi, so today we have with us Shweta Taneja, who's written the big book of wild poop. Lovely, I just love this book. It's like the messy science of scat, splat, droppings, and dung. Superb, yeah. Shweta, how did you think of this? Because it's such it's a wild idea, just nobody thinks of shit as interesting.
Uh, yeah, I know, Manjula. Thanks for asking that as a get-go question. I think I cannot take the credit for thinking of writing a book on poop. I think that goes to my editor Anita from Indian Peta, who's co-published this book with WWF India. She approached me, but she knew that I would be the right person for it, and I don't know how. Maybe instinctively we had worked together. When she approached me, she said, "Shweta, there's this exciting book, and you are the weird author I know. Would you like to write it?" And then I heard about it and I was like, yes, I'll send you a concept note within a couple of weeks. So that is how it started with her idea. And then I shaped it up. But because weird fiction and weird nonfiction has been my thing since my career has started in this.
Really? So what other weird stuff have you written?
So I think before this podcast conversation started with you, Manjula, I was thinking about my career graph so far, and I've always been attracted to the everyday weirdnesses of our lives, and I'm not. It's literally, I say, poke the poop. That's who I am. I'm a poker of poop in our lives, in our hearts, through my stories. So I write weird fiction when I'm writing fiction, and in the non-fiction, I get attracted to the weird, to the things that we are not talking about, to the things that we are embarrassed about. I think these are the elements of life in general that fascinate me because I like to poke into the fringes of what we into the idea of what we are putting under the carpet. And in India, there's a lot of things that we quietly do not talk about. So these things that we don't talk about have always fascinated me in every book that I have come out with in my past.
Hmm. Okay. So, but what I liked about this book really is that you've taken this poop, the subject of poop, animal poop, and you've put in so many facts, and it's it's ended up being like really even for an adult. Though this is for kids, right? But even for an adult, it's like quite enlightening, you know.
Right, right.
So
Thanks for that compliment, Manjula.
So, what did you do? You kind of like researched poop
Right.
and
So after just a little bit on my background on this about this as well, I've been a journalist and I've been an author for about 20 years now, I think. And I've been writing in journalism for various organizations. I've been writing on technology, I've been writing on fashion, and on health, on different beats as a career journalist in features. And then this is my 10th book, by the way, Majida. I'm so
wow.
happy that I have ten published books out there. So in fiction as well, I've been writing through the gamut of fantasy and science fiction
Hmm.
to weird fiction, like we started this conversation with, as well as now non-fiction because of my journalistic background. So when
Hmm.
Anita came to me and she said WWF India wants to do a book with we had already worked together, me and Anita, on an earlier essay in a women in the wild. It was called the book. I had written one essay in
Yes.
ecology,
Oh, you
ecology with
did.
that. Yeah, yeah. So
Which one did you write? I read that. Which one did you write?
do you remember the Valparai Divya Muddappa's
Ah,
story? Yeah.
oh,
Yeah, so
that's yours.
I was at that time working at Nature Conservation Foundation, and she approached me because we had the same media connections, and she was starting out Indian Pita at that time, and I
Hmm.
loved the idea because nature books dedicated in print in India has not been done so far.
Yeah.
So I was like, dude, I will not only because I was doing communications with MCF at that time, I was like, I will write as part of this chapter, the essay. I want to write this story, Divya's story, but I also want to get some new ideas into you. So I spread the word around in the ecology circles to get more books out with the with her imprint. So it's
Oh.
been a trust-based journey with Anita so far, and I'm so happy that we did another book together. When it came to this book, she was like, "Okay, let me check with Shweta if she wants to work on it." And yeah, so I started working on it. And when you think about poop, Manjula, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? I mean, not many people think about it, I must say.
You just think it's a waste and it stinks, That's all you
Right.
think about at
Right.
first.
So, yeah,
Hmm.
that's all you think about. And as I was saying at the beginning, that I have been a poker for since the longest time. I'm also a nature lover. I go out, do hikes, I do bird watching, a lot of activities. I'm involved with nature communities around my city. So I was looking at, I was like, okay, let me start researching on this book and see what all is important. Of course, there is one thing is that poop is uh, a result, a waste of what you're doing. You're taking
Hmm.
energy, you're eating food, you're taking energy in, and you're taking it out, and that's your poop. But what else is it, especially in the wild? And our focus, just to kind of reiterate this, in this book has been on wild animals and their poop. So we are focusing on poop in the forest. This is not about human poop, I must say. Human remains sounds a
Thank
little,
you. Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So uh, at the research, at the very concept note of it, I wanted to figure out poop in all its aspects. Try to answer why animals poop, why we poop, why animals poop, what different kinds of poop is there out there in the wild, because all animals don't have the same poop. It is very different depending on the size of the animal. Talk about different sizes of animals, from a caterpillar's poop to a whale's poop,
Hmm.
and including birds and insects and all gamut of what we would call as animals.
Hmm.
Um, talk about what different kind of poop is there. What because if you eat whatever you eat, your undigested remains show that. In case of animals, if there are herbivores, the color of their poop will be different. The smell of their poop will be different. The remains in their poop, the undigested remains are different as well. And I think I wanted to approach it not only from what it is, but also how it helps the larger ecosystem and environment. So from there, while researching, I found about how poop acts like social media for so many herbivores,
Yes.
which was one of my favorite chapters in the book. We'll come to it maybe later,
Yeah.
on how it tackles climate change and cools down the planet. How some animals are actually doing that, or how their poop is actually helping growing forests.
Hmm.
Um, and then there was an interesting chapter, and maybe we'll come back to that a little later, on how poop is helping science in conservation, and
Yes.
ecologists and biologists in conservation, how wild animal poop is helping them out in various elements, or even how it's used in zoo therapy, which was one of the trickiest chapters I think I wrote in this book.
Hmm. What therapy?
Zoo therapy, which is
Zoo therapy. Yes,
yeah,
yes,
yeah,
yes.
yeah,
Yes.
which was about, there were examples of wild animal poop has been used by tribes to do healing, so to speak, or to use in their practices. So there was a lot of conversation whether this topic should be open, because it can be a can of worms when it's
Yes.
published as well.
Yes.
So there were a couple of these tricky elements when, especially when you're writing books for children, that comes
Hmm.
out sometimes.
Hmm. So, I mean, what I found is that it's like so nerdy and interesting, because it's got all these, like, I just, I was like, what? Wombats have square poop?
They do. Oh my God. I found out about this. And I was like, there was, by researching, there were such weird facts that I was able to unearth that I was uh, are you sure this is true? And there is, as a researcher, as a journalist, you want to make sure that you're writing strict facts, that you're not
Yeah.
writing, because wombats is one of the only animals which has, uh, in this book, which are non-Indian animals. We were from the get-go trying to focus on the Indian subcontinent. And a
Hmm.
square poo is not something I could find in the Indian subcontinent. I was like, this has to come into the
Yeah,
shapes
what does
of
that
poo.
mean? The anus of the wombat is like square? What? How does it come out?
I'm not 100% sure, I must say. I
Uh,
do come up with I do have a lot of facts in my head all about poop and wild animals. But with wombats, so it's more like a dice cube, I want to say, and I
yeah.
can't believe I'm digesting and trying to figure this out with you on podcast. It's like a cube, but like a softer cube. So I don't think
Oh, yeah.
their a-holes are bad shape. I'm trying to be very, very polite.
Well, the book is about poop. So, yeah, so that sort of thing. And, also I enjoyed how when even elephants and the blue whale pooping, and I never thought that it had stinky, greasy orange poop, which is superfood for tiny plant-like organisms. I mean, this is not something you think about. That their poop, or even that the ambergris that they like vomit is, we know it's valuable, but people are like kind of that it's against the law if you find it,
This is the Indian law, by the way. If you're doing it in Europe, you might be okay. If you find it in Europe, see it's in like Mediterranean or something, you can take it back home and sell it. But the
Mm.
Indian Wildlife Act prohibits us from keeping anything that we find in the wild, and this remains of the undigested remains of whales is considered a wildlife property, so to speak. It was
Okay.
interesting, and the thing about, I mean, there were like these thousands of facts that you find out when you're
Yeah.
building a book, and this is a book I would say I'm building rather than writing.
Mm.
It is about connecting all of these little facts you find in a larger story, and I think that's the most challenging part of this book that was for me. Like obviously, that whales are cooling the planet through pooping, which phytoplanktons who absorb are eating that poop, and which is why they are responsible for absorbing one third of the CO2 on our planet. And
Mm.
this is something that I hadn't thought of. When you think about it in numbers, it just blows your mind on. Obviously, at the beginning of the book, I had no idea that this is a
Mm.
story that comes out, but the cooling the planet, the climate change and poop angle came out pretty strongly. For example, in elephants, when they're walking through our forests every day, they're eating the growth on the ground, which gives more, and the leaves, so which gives more sunlight to the other plants on the ground to grow.
Mm.
And then they're at the same time ingesting these seeds and pooping them out through the system and giving nourishment through the poop to these seeds to grow out as trees, as new saplings. So
Yeah.
that whole cyclical beauty of ecology, I think, ecological systems, which are so natural and varied and vast, and how that little dropping is also very, very useful in so many other ways
Yeah.
was fascinating to bring out in this book for me.
Yeah. So, when I was reading it, I was thinking that, okay, you've gotten in so many facts, but there must have been so many you left out because you can't fit everything in, right? So,
Yeah.
what are interesting ones that you left out that you really wish that you had included? you know?
I think the zoo therapy one had a lot of unproven facts, and I'm saying unproven in a very scientific language,
Hmm.
uh, because there are so many, some of the documented and undocumented oral stories around our indigenous knowledge, which
Hmm.
has not been built in scientific papers or not being checked medically speaking, scientifically through a Western
Hmm.
perspective, whether these systems work.
Yeah.
There were so many these fascinating things of like using, uh, cockroach poo in
Asthma.
yeah,
Yeah.
and not all of them. I unearthed a lot, but I cross-checked on a lot of these, and very hesitantly decided to keep a lot of more interesting things to myself, including bones and blood. And it was like, yeah, I would have wanted everything in, but I think my editors were reining me in as well, and obviously the space.
Yeah.
That chapter especially, and then Uma's chapter,
Hmm.
which Uma Ramakrishnan, who works as
Yes.
a DNA researcher in NCBS in Bangalore.
Hmm.
And her chapter, she's also a fantastic storyteller. So she gave me such a beautiful thing on the challenges of collecting tiger poop in the forest, tiger scat, and what all is inside that scat. I think that chapter became really long, and it was very sad to take out information from it and let some be.
But
Uh,
that was very interesting because I kept thinking, gosh, this woman is flying from here to there with this big bag of shit.
this is the first time that this has come out in print about her work because I asked her, I said, "You're collecting it in the forest. How do you bring it back? I want to know that." Like, how do you bring it back to Bangalore to your lab? But there is obviously something that's missing, this link of things. And from it also came that other story, which is equally hilarious in the chapter on conservation and scientists working on poop, is that when they're collecting poop, say along a pathway, and a villager passes by and like, oh, don't they put anything on the poop, it'll get dirty. This is an anecdote that I read on one of the blogs of a ecologist, poor thing, that they were laughing at us saying these city folks are crazy. They think that poop can get dirty. What is that they doing? And they're putting their gloves on and they're putting like these the poop into their little bags and sanitizing bags and like crossing it because they want DNA sample from the only the skin, by the way. I don't know if that has been in the part of the book that only the skin of the poop is useful to do DNA research
Oh,
for these
they
scientists.
have to
So
scrape it
obviously
off.
they have to scrape it off. They have to scrape that skin off because that's the one which has the cells of the animal the most, and that's the actually poop is the most non-invasive way of studying wild animals
Hmm.
in our country, because if you want to do DNA research, especially poop or hair or leftover remains of the animal fallen across the forest path is one of the best ways to study individual wild animals in the country.
Hmm. And it was fascinating that bit about how she learned about variety within DNA of tigers, and how that helps so that they don't become, I guess, inbred, right?
Right. So this is one of the recent biggest stories of Simlipal Tiger Reserve in Odisha, uh, where they were. I don't know if you happen to come across it. It's not included in the book, but it's an article that I recently wrote about separately as well. Um, about how the stripes are turning white, the
Oh.
tiger. Oh, sorry, black, not white. I'm so sorry. Black. So they're becoming black tigers. And there was a Nat
Oh.
Geo story that happened because of the inbreeding that has been happening in the last 10 years. And because of Uma's work, and she's one of the only ones who has like such a huge collection of the DNA database of tiger population in India. She's been working on it for 20-25 years. The Odisha forest officials were able to figure out what there is one particular subgene in their in the inbreeding that is happening in those tigers for to color to get that black coating out. So their stripes are going really. It's become more and more black because there is one black male tiger who's very active in the forest. So yeah, they were able to introduce tigers from other tiger reserves. It has been mentioned in the book, but as a two line instead of this expanded version
Yes.
that I'm telling you. So it's one of the biggest stories of how DNA conservation has been activated in the country. And this has already happened. It happened as recently as last year. So now they're going to see how
Ooh,
this will kind of, move through the next decade and how that introduced diversity, gene pool diversity will help the tigers of Simlipal and the numbers in that forest.
lovely. I also found the cow dung bit very interesting. We tend to like dismiss cow dung as a villager's sort of thing, but of course we know that it's really precious in terms of fertilization. But I didn't know it was it repelled mosquitoes.
Yeah, so I mean, again, this is again the zoo therapy idea that it does repel mosquitoes. It is used as a mosquito repellent by, wiping cow dung on walls, and that's the traditional practices of our country.
Yes.
But I did find a couple of studies on this. But I'm also a cynical journalist that even if I find studies, I'm still a little bit on the back seat about it. But
Mm.
that opinion of mine wouldn't go into the book because I feel like we should embrace all kinds of knowledge from all sources in
Mm.
when building books for kids because
But this has scientific backing. I mean that it's
it has.
repellent.
Yes, it has.
Oh.
I had to cross check and cross check again to just make sure that this has scientific backing of acting as repellent, especially if the right cakes are burned, so that smoke helps in
Oh,
repelling.
the smoke.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. It
Hmm.
helps in.
And also the fact that Khadi Gram Udyog has a paint and a
It
cement.
has a page. Yes, I wasn't sure how helpful that is, but I put it out as a fact that it is there. Like if you want to get it,
You want to get paint your home with cow dung thing, which might you can, and bricks as well. Rotak. But I was like, wow, what is this information? This
yeah,
is the sort of thing that I was like, really?
yeah. I think it was important because cows, obviously, most of the cows in the country are not wild animals, especially
Yeah.
since we talked about how this book is wild animal. But cows is an animal that most of the kids in the country has seen
Yes. Yes.
around them all the time. So it's important, and obviously heard some of these stories, if not all of them.
Hmm.
So I feel it's since the cows, the cow as an animal, especially, they're such a big part of our ecosystem, of our human ecosystem. I
Hmm.
wanted to put that page out on, especially cow poop. I mean, you've heard about urine, you've heard 10,000 ways of using cow poop, urine, all everything. So I wanted to put that chapter in, even if it's a slight misfit. And thanks for highlighting the misfit.
Hmm.
I did that.
Yeah, but even that bit about wild dogs eating their children's poop, even domestic dogs do it when they're very
Oh,
small. Yeah,
yeah,
when
yeah.
my dog gave birth, she ate for the first few weeks. She ate up the kid's poop. You know,
Oh.
yeah. So that it's not just wild. Even
So,
domestic dogs do it.
do you know the reasons why a mother eats their kids' poops? I mean, it is in
I
the
don't
book.
know.
I'm testing you out, Manjula.
I don't know. I just assumed that because anyway they're just drinking her milk, and there wasn't anything else. So even the poop was black. It wasn't.
Right.
And then when it started changing color, and then they started eating other things as well, she stopped. Well, then I had to do it.
Oh, I feel so bad. You were happy. That's why you noticed. You were.
I had to clean it, yeah. So I know it because until it was black and she was like solely, feeding them herself. It was her job to clean. So yeah, that's the way it was. So I remember
I think
that when I.
yeah. I wonder if it comes from, I mean, while researching this book, and this is part of this book about poop being a giveaway to potential attackers, to predators. So a
Yeah.
lot of birds, for example, make sure that they have something called fecal sac. The bird chicks, when they
Yes.
poop, the bird is able to take out that sac with the poop and throw it out or eat in the nest. So there is
Oh.
no proof of or smell, say for snakes to attack them,
Hmm.
uh, or in case of wild dogs as well, for bigger predators to come and attack the children when they're pups, when they're like really vulnerable. So a lot
Yeah.
of mothers actually eat their children's the pups poop or the chicks poop because of this reason, that the
Hmm.
smell might attract predators to alert them that there are that there is food there for them.
Hmm.
That was very fascinating for me to unearth, and that relationship of fear and defending their dog as well.
Hmm. And I mean, I've always wondered when I've seen those bits. But your book told me that the spiral bits of poop that one sees is. I mean, I live in Gurgaon, so it's Haryana, and the yellow-footed green pigeon is
Oh,
Haryana's
you've noticed those?
state bird. Yeah, so there are
Yeah.
lots where I live, and sometimes, like when I'm walking, I'd see these things when I'm walking my dog. I'd see these walls, and I'd be like, "What is this?" I assumed it's some insect, something. I just.
Right,
Then it struck me when I read this book. I said, "Oh, that's what it is," because they're all up there. It's a shy bird, but it's
right,
like.
right.
you know, and then like when you have flocks of them, clearly, yeah, so that was fascinating. For years, I wondered about this, and I read, and now I know.
And everything you will realize slowly, as I'm realizing after I've written this book, all puns, all all facts around wild observation, most of them are connected to poop.
Yeah, and I also liked how for children, how you've like communicated with this character, with this Mr.
Super scat.
Poopman. What is
Yeah,
it?
super scat. This guy, I love him. He
Yeah,
also comes in my thanking. I'm sorry, I'm blanking out of it.
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
first page where he's
first page.
introduced.
Yeah,
It's the day, sorry, day.
his name is, what is his name?
Super scat.
Super Scat.
Uh,
Super Scat.
yeah,
You
super
know,
scat.
it's
Yeah.
very nice. Very nice. And him jumping around everywhere. Super Scat says this and says that. My loyal followers always give the best stinky scoop. So that's also nice. And how did you work with the illustrator who's also done a very good job, Sunena Coelho? So how did you work
Right.
with her?
So with Sunena, it was mostly on through emails. Like I had, what I did was I wrote the book in a certain way, and Sunena mostly worked with the publishers and the design team to figure out how to visualize it. But then
Okay.
there was obviously a lot of iterations where I said this and this doesn't match the text, and the
Yeah.
storytelling, the page doesn't come together. So there were a lot of iterations. But I think she's done a fantastic thing, fantastic job of illustrating the book. It's made it alive. It's made poop alive, and poop could have been disgusting visually as well, but it's made
Yeah.
poop, different kinds of poop. I was just looking at one of the illustrations, which has like, yeah, this one on page 12. It has like a caterpillar pooping, and it's
Yeah, I
genuinely
remember that.
interesting. Yeah. I mean, yeah, different types of poops, and this comic also so beautifully she's taken up. I'm a comic fan and a comic writer, so I had to add some panels of this,
And
well, yeah, character
yeah,
into
and
it.
even these little, these factoids, fart floaters, manatees also
Mm.
called sea cows, which swim in the seas of Lakshadweep, use their farts to help keep themselves afloat. Now that's a super
Yeah,
float.
and I'm not talking shit. It's true.
How do they make themselves float with a fart? I mean, what a superpower that is. Super
I
power.
love manatees, and they're like this. like massive creatures like
Yeah.
cows, like behavior. They
Yeah.
live in herds underwater. So I guess you need that. You're a bit weighty. And yeah.
And all the stories are quite funny, like how hippos, like if they're flirtily farting in each other's faces. Not
No,
farting.
they do actually shower dung on each other's faces, not fart. They actually put dung on. So with hippos or with rhinos, it's poop is crucial to communicate with each other. For them, it's like
Mm.
a ping or a like or a comment on each other's social media. Literally, they
Mm.
may build relationships through poop. It's like a hug, I think. Putting fart. I don't want to put ideas into people's minds, but I think this book will do it enough.
But the I mean, I never thought of like we have loos, we have toilets, but I never thought of animals dedicating a space to defecate, and
Yeah.
rhinos do that, and other animals do that. So talk about that.
For rhinos, it's like a social space where they're because they're all solitary. They're just moving in this vast forest, and they don't really see each other. So they go to the same spot to poop to and to kind of check out who else has been here. And through the smells, through the pheromones, they are able to find out who are the males can figure out who are the more powerful males. Females and males can figure out who's ready for some fun. And
Fun.
this is like a neighborhood adda, I think. To latrines they are called. That's the
Uh,
technical term. And ants do it to
yeah.
in their underground networks to kind of be at that spot where they can all put all the remains because they want to keep it. Ants are super clean, so they want to keep their pathways clean, and they have these piles. And Manjula, it's interesting that went to a few rainforests after writing this book, and I started observing these piles on top of like ant spots, which are actually ant remains and poop. They look like little small piles on top of the ground on the walking trails that you find, but they have all the remains, but everything is brought out and put out in the open, so they disease doesn't catch them, so to speak. Because
Wow.
at the end of it, we consider poop filthy because it is disease. It can carry disease with it, especially for
Yeah.
humans. So
Yes.
it's
So ants
amazing.
also believe that clearly.
Ants also believe that, I think, and it's difficult to
Wow.
think what ants believe. I would wonder on that for a whole book, but yeah.
Oh, so they probably, I mean, they probably know that there's some bacteria or something that you shouldn't be having around your house and get it out. Therefore, perhaps. I don't
I
know.
don't know the reason. I mean, maybe there are studies done on why they behave this way, but I don't know that as of
Hmm.
now. You know.
Hmm. And there was one strange thing which I marked when you said right in the beginning, and I thought I really have to ask you this because wait, 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 wait. Something about how nah, how we also, I don't know, use waste in some way. Where is it? Oh, there's some yeah, yeah. Dung is a bowl full of multivitamins if you're a dung beetle or a worm. It's a disguise for a spider to escape predators. It's also something that animals and humans, yes, we, use to disinfect our homes and treat our wounds. I didn't get that.
I meant animal dung on this,
Oh,
not our own dung. No. I
because I was like, what?
know. Now I can see that might be taken. Editor.
No, it's a misreading because I should have read it properly. So I was I kept thinking humans do that.
No. Humans, we have written it. There are a lot of disclaimers in this book with good reason, because because kids and I do love how they come with curiosity and their mind is full of like they're not scared of exploring. So, I
Yes.
mean, there was this chapter this activity which we have, which is like go out there and check out, go on a forest trail and, check out all the poop that you find. But there is like a whole thing on how to do it.
Yeah, to use gloves and all
Yeah,
that.
to use gloves, to poke it with a stick, don't touch it, don't finger it, don't put it in your
Yeah.
nose. I mean,
Ew.
we cannot we cannot think about
Yeah.
what ways that kids might or do it with adult supervision. Because if
Yeah.
you're giving ideas to kids and they don't have, it's not like they lack ideas, but if you're giving these kind of ideas to kids,
Yeah.
as 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 the writer, I feel like personally responsible to make sure that they do it in a safe environment. But
Yes.
to not but I would still want them to do it
Yeah.
because of the knowledge that can be gained from it. And that's science, isn't it? At the end
Yeah.
of it, it is a science book should invigorate yourself to like go out there and explore natural world. Like a nature book should like make you question that why is this happening? Okay, fine, somebody pooped. Why is this poop here? Who's eating it? Why they need to eat it? What happens with the seeds inside the poop? Why are they growing faster than the seeds which are just strewn otherwise in a
Yeah.
forest trail? There is
Yeah.
a whole like gamut web of information that you can glean by just having that curiosity and not hesitating, not
Mm.
thinking, oh, I should not look at that. Oh, I should not touch that.
Yeah. Yeah. And what makes this an interesting book is that even parents, like when they're reading it out to their kids, maybe, would learn a lot from it because
Right.
it's not it's not dumbed down, though it's presented in a way that children can understand, but not in a way that will bore an adult. You know. So I think you got that balance there.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you. That's great. That's good to know.
Hmm. So did you have a
I
take
feel
on
that,
that?
yeah. Um, I think I do tend to touch upon difficult subjects when writing for children.
Hmm.
Maybe it's challenging to me as a writer because when I created my earlier book, which is a science book called They Made What, They Found What, which is a flip book, and you call it like They Made What, They Found What, with like expressions. Um, it was about discovery and by different contemporary scientists in the country, what they're working on, how they do their work. And
Hmm.
instead of focusing on their personal life, like I didn't even ask the scientists I was interviewing, are you married or do you have a work-life balance issue or something? I just focused on the scientific process, and there was just so much science in in that book, that I had to really simplify it for because I'm writing for children.
Hmm.
It was a difficult subject because it was technically really heavy, but I wanted that technicality to come through humor so kids become more fascinated about how modern science works. Not how it used to work like 100 years ago or 50 years ago, but what challenges are our scientists facing today with infrastructure, with light going off in labs, for example, like basic things
Hmm.
like that also perhaps, or with just getting the samples right or getting them to the right temperature. All of these challenges are micro stories, much like Uma's, how does she bring tiger poop out of the forest into her lab? That journey,
Yes.
what happens? And these processes of scientific, not only discovery, but like the process of how everyday scientists do things continues to fascinate me, and I like to talk about subjects which are tougher to tackle, especially for kids.
Hmm.
I think kids are way more understanding, and curiosity makes them way more open to ideas than a lot of books tend to presume.
Hmm.
And what I do is, so that it doesn't become pedantic or boring, I try to
Yeah.
bring in humor, I try to bring in these anecdotes, so you kind of keep keep reading, keep them curious. Okay, what happened next? What happened next? How did she do it next? That kind of a thing. Like keep them so hooked that you can feed them a lot of like technical information.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, make them aware that there are people doing things like this guy, Bibi,
Busy.
Bibi Deshanand Basu.
He's
Okay.
just getting married, by the way,
Oh,
in January, in a few days.
oh, okay. So it's so nice for a kid to know that, this is possible. You can do things like this. Right.
Right, like Didi spends all his time in Pake, in Arunachal Pradesh, and when I asked him, when I was researching on poop, it quickly became clear to me that secondary research will not work because we were focusing on Indian animals, and anything off the internet, most of the things off the internet, even AI, everyone, I want to say even ChatGPT is not helpful in this because the research that they do is about things on the internet. And most of the internet things, most of the books that I read on poop, animal poop, are focused on African animals, South American animals, North American animals. Very few have Indian animals in them. So I
Oh,
had to actually step back from that approach of reading books, of gleaning, things about. Well, you start books, then you go to studies, and then I had to go to scientists and ecologists who are working on the ground in India to find out what they are working on and who is who is fascinated by food as a subject. And I found like these 5 to 10 scientists, and I was chasing them across. And I'm like, "Tell me, what do you do? How do you chase it?" And that's how I found DB because he's working on civet poop.
yes.
And his work is directly related to poop in the sense of he actually tracks different civet poop across a forest trail in Pake in Arunachal Pradesh, and then checks inside, and they have lots of seeds in the civets are mostly fruit eaters, and then tracks the same poop again and again to see whether how many saplings have come out of this poop. And he's brought out a new paper, which is part of his PhD now, on how the saplings with which are the seeds which have civet poop around them versus non-poop saplings are much growing healthier and faster than the plants. Otherwise, the seeds that are there, they're growing, and that this knowledge helps in reforestation, in
Yes.
conservation as well. And he's quirky, he's mad. And when I asked him, okay, what on it? So he sent me about 50 photos of civet cat poop, I must say, on my WhatsApp. So it's it's a no filter approach because he's working on it so much. I mean, yes, I'm working on a poop post. I was asking for it, literally. But yes, that's what you get really,
Yeah.
for going to ask people who study poop on. You get poop.
Yeah, I know. But well, it's like it's really fascinating. I didn't expect to be so taken up by the book. I mean, I got it and I looked at it and I was like, what? you know, this I have to,
Yeah.
and this thing about, I don't know, I think bears having scented poop, honey scented poop. I mean,
I
there's.
haven't smelled it, just so you know, but I have read like blogs of scientists who claim that, and it's different. I mean, I think Arjun was the one who studies Indian dhole poop in India, and he I think messaged me. I'm not sure. I can't claim that it's him because I can't remember, but somebody told me that tiger poop to them smells like basmati rice, which I'm very on the fence about. So the smell thing is personal, Manjula. So I have no idea if that is true or not. Until I smell it myself, because everyone's sense of smell is so personal and everyone's description of smell is so personal. But the whale poop, I read from multiple people scientists, of researchers, of tourists who have smelled it and oh my God, don't want to smell it again. So
Uh,
that one I could include.
ah,
This
ah.
is the planet. This is the
But
planet.
basmati rice is just too much, man.
Yeah, that's too much. I don't know who said this, so I can't
Unbelievable.
remember.
It's really unbelievable.
The
Uh,
things that you find in while researching on poop,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, funnily enough, through the book, there weren't any real yuck moments, except when we got to this, like, using
That
even
was yuck, right?
the yuck, but still, as a beauty treatment, knighting, though, then when I got to the bird, it's a Japanese bush warbler, which possibly is so small, but
Just
it's
small,
kind
right? Tiny.
of cute. you know?
Yeah, I mean, the beauty treatments or even civet poop,
Yeah,
coffee.
coffee.
I don't understand this fascination. I think it has to do with rarity or maybe
Hmm.
fascination with uh, I don't know, with the idea of food being disgusting and something really expensive and luxurious coming
Coming
through
out of
it,
it.
right? It feels more precious, doesn't it? Unlike, I mean, if maybe food gold is more precious than normal gold
Indeed.
in my case, who knows? Maybe it shines better. There are studies that I found about how civet poop coffee is less acidic because the poop kind of removes the acid out of the seed, and then they clean
Oh.
it and they burn, then they roast it, so then it's less acidic. But I think that's all as uh, Superstat would say, bull, and he loves bull.
Yeah. And also, of course, like the whole industry around that, right? It's like not, you know, I'm sure I've heard that, and you mentioned in the book, civets in Indonesia are kind of forced to poop, right?
Yeah,
They
they are, and like they're put in, they're being captured from the forest. So it's a traditional thing again. Coming back to zoo therapy, so it's coming from Kopilovak. The coffee's name is coming from a traditional tribe in Indonesia, which was doing it for centuries, and then it suddenly become like commercialized, but they were collecting poop much like is in Pake, where they're collecting
yeah,
poop seeds from the forest. But now it's commercialized. Now they're putting animals in
ages.
captivity to feeding them seeds to bring out that seed. And that is something that when we were doing the zoo therapy chapter and I was looking at it again, we have put in a disclaimer saying this is the tribe's knowledge and
Yeah,
you shouldn't do it just because you know about it. I
yeah,
mean, it's the tribes that are living next to the forest that are consuming things from the forest, which who have the legal right in the country to do that.
yeah.
They're okay doing that, but you shouldn't go into a forest and look for poop to put on your wound. That doesn't work for you. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and even this little bit about hornbills, so nice, like it's such a cute thing because anyway, hornbills, like they mate for life and they raise their families together.
Right.
Then you've described how they build that wall with poop and keep
I
their
love
children
the
safe.
title
Yeah,
of this chapter of this
the
aside.
Great Wall of Poop. So nice, you know.
Yeah.
And the nice thing about the book is that it kind of like I guess when children read it, they'll think, oh, look, they are sentient beings and they also have their whatever imaginations and these birds and their ways of doing things, right? As opposed to just creatures there. So,
Yeah, but while I was doing this hornbill uh, part of the book, I did think it's so hard for wild animals to survive, everyday survival in the wild.
yeah,
Forget human activities that threaten them within their own ecosystem without humans being involved. I mean, imagine the mother has to clean up poop because there's a constant threat to her chicks being attacked by another
yeah,
predator. Even
Yeah.
though she's at a really tall, like tree at the top of the tree, the nest is supposed to be very safe. She's still constantly scared about attacks or the wild dog that we were talking about
Yeah.
earlier. That they're eating the poop in fear that the smell will attract predators. What a way to live! I mean, and they're surviving. They're like not thriving thanks to us, slightly thriving thanks to us as well, but they're
Yeah.
surviving these challenges. It makes you really wonder on how tough wild animals have it in the wild as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, so these are the things I liked about the book. And
Oh, thank you.
and also I also laughed about that story about a chimp throwing poop.
Yes, I saw the video, Manjula.
Yes.
Oh my God. I thought we will put a QR code in the book because, as I was saying, the book in my head, children's book is a construct. It's not only like read. Today we are
Yeah.
competing with so many different audio, visual, and
Yeah.
elements around the children's world that you have to build a book that grips them and makes them question, but also not gives them everything because kids can look up digital lives, look at things, everything. And for me, this book was a little bit like that. Like it's part of a digital ecosystem. So we have tough
Mm.
words, but we've not described them. And at the end of the book, if you see, there is like a tough word thing, and we're like,
Yes.
okay, tackle the toughies yourself, and just
Yeah.
as in dictionary, find it in the dictionary or online, wherever you look at. We don't care. You
Yeah.
you figure out the answers to these yourself. Other
Yeah.
questions, I think it's so important to have activities, constant things for kids to see, to look, to entertain. So coming back to the chimp and the chimp, angry chimp throwing his, his own poop, I think it was a he, at the grandma because there were tourists standing in front of it and they were throwing sticks on the poop. Towards
Oh, it
it.
serves
So
him
they
right.
wanted the reaction, they wanted the selfie, they wanted a front page, like a face front photo of the gym. And he got so angry that he like flung his poop right at the tourists, and then
Serves him
poor
right.
grandma got it in the face.
So funny.
So funny. You should check out the video. So yeah, I was trying to put a QR code. I wish there were more QR codes into this book because I think we need to build books which are like more
Yeah.
constructs where rather than taking them away, they kind of will use the digital systems
Together.
around them to
Yeah.
use it cohesively
Yeah,
with the
QR code would have been nice because immediately after that, everybody would have like, scanned the
yeah,
QR code and gotten. But maybe there might be some
copyright.
rights issues and all, na?
Yeah,
That's the
copyright
problem.
issues, which is
Yeah.
why I think we were staying away from that. And also with QR code, it's interesting that digital spaces we feel stay longer, but actually the video becomes defunct, the link becomes defunct, and then you have a QR code in your book which does not work. So
Ah,
it's interesting that print is a different, it remains different because digital is more porous and keeps moving in its
yes, that's
by its
true.
very nature.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, I didn't
yeah.
think of that. That's true. So maybe, I mean, the books are using QR codes after a few months when you try the QR codes, they might not take you to what you
Right. It might
really
not take you
did.
to something else which you don't want because it's a third party QR code as well.
Yeah, yeah,
So the
yeah,
only one that the QR code that I've put is I think next to me, next to my epilogue in that sense. No, I haven't. I'll be removed that as well. Because that was my website's QR code. I could have put that, but I think we removed all QR codes at the end as well.
yeah. So great. I
Yeah.
really, like this book.
So
So
how many times did you laugh while reading it?
I
Because
laughed
that humor
actually.
is what I was aiming for really at
Yeah,
the end
you
of
you you succeeded because I laughed throughout, and I also learned some words like coprophagy. I mean, eating poop of
Coprophagy. Yeah.
species is called coprophagy. Phagy.
Coprophagy, I think. Yeah.
I'll look it up.
Yeah. Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, eating other animals' poop. That is the word. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or this maybe you try to fill up this crossword at the end.
Yes, I saw
Vocabulary.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So all these
Yeah.
things. Right. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think humor. I don't know, Manjula. You obviously you read way more than I have. How many times have you come across humor and nonfiction as a combination?
it's very
Um,
rare.
is it
Yeah.
okay?
You don't often laugh. You might think and you might be fascinated, but laughter is not one of those, people are not even aiming for it, right? So,
Right.
so
Yeah.
we
Well, if you're writing about poop, that's the one thing you're aiming for, getting it right, definitely. I mean, you have to use words like fart, burp,
yeah,
all kinds of. But I do feel that humor is so important for nonfiction. I mean, all of us really want to read nonfiction, but it is serious. It is overwhelming, and our society,
yeah,
our life anyway is so overwhelming. So we can't really escape it like in fiction when you're reading
mm,
nonfiction. So building it that humor, especially for kids who have like the attention span of a, I won't say ants, but ants have good attention span.
yeah,
Yeah,
clearly.
like a split second. Yeah, clearly. Yeah. So I think silly things and kind of wordplay and puns to make kids giggle and keeps them bringing back to the text, back to the images, and keeps them reading. Or funny anecdotes like Uma's backpack and how it
Yeah,
travels with like a lot of shit inside
yeah,
through by a plane, and why she never checks it in because obviously it's really precious. It is months and months of hard work,
yeah.
and she always takes it in a flight and. Um,
But imagine the guys checking.
Yeah,
Just explain this to them.
right, exactly. I probably she has like reams of paperwork with her to say that okay, this is officially sanctioned, and she obviously gets all the bad looks and the weird expressions
And
from.
when it goes through that thing, अरे ये बाघ का poop है. So
ऐसा होता है. So, by the way, it reminds me that years ago when I heard Uma's lecture in Bangalore for the first time, she had like tiger poop on the table, like three types of tiger poop, like three different tigers, so that people could see and explore, and you can see that there are like hair in it or tooth in it, or because tigers are carnivores, of course, and they're
yeah.
massively, they're human, but they're bigger sized
Oh,
than our poop. So imagine like being able to, and a lot of hair, obviously, because hair is not something that is can be digested very well by the tiger's body. So I mean, imagine seeing that visually, and she was letting children see it properly, and I think that stayed with her. Then I should ask her if she can bring a couple of more poop samples for my launch, or like my events in Bangalore
yeah, yeah,
to
yeah.
do
You
that.
should.
Yeah.
You will be
Yeah,
fascinated.
because that will be like really fascinating for
Yeah,
kids to do. But I mean, the point I was trying to make was these anecdotes, these humor. I think it laugh. So I was reading somewhere that laugh releases dopamine and
hmm.
reduces the anxiety of learning for kids and
Yes,
creates like this positive association uh, for kids to remember things, scientific things in their heads, rather than
yes,
the negative of if you don't study, I will hit you.
yeah. That's
Um, and obviously, if it's out of the memory, it's just the shock value of humor is that if you keep it in your head, that plane and the tiger poop will never stay out of your head or my head ever,
or any of
ever.
all these different types of poop that you've spoken about in this book. You know,
Right.
great.
Yeah. I mean, any stories from the owl to the
Yeah.
frog living in elephant poop, for example, which
Yes,
the
yes.
researchers found
Yeah.
uh, those things that it feels that it's nice and moist. I love it. Why not stay here forever?
Why not? So I could
Yeah.
keep talking to you, but for everybody out there, go out and get the big book of wild poop, The Messy Science of Scat, Splat, Droppings and Dung by Shweta Taneja, illustrated by Sunena Coelho. Very nice, very lovely book and great fun. I love reading it, even adults. Kids, of course, will love it, but adults too. So, thank you so much, Shweta, for talking to me.
Thank you, Manjula. Thanks for your time today and enjoy your evening.
You
Bye,
too.
everyone.
Bye. Bye.